Nigeria's association with the rest of the world, particularly during the heydays of the prolonged military rule, was always very intriguing for officials and diplomats that manage it. Some of those who were involved have over the years put down their thoughts about what really transpired in the form of publications, with the hope will continue to signpost that interesting era for posterity. Former military President General Ibrahim Babangida's regime stands out as having been characterized by a long experimentation with democracy, a situation that kept it almost at perpetual daggers drawn with the West. Right now, we're being joined for a conversation around this issue and many other issues by one of the functionaries at that time, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, a former Minister of External Affairs of Nigeria, a diplomat, and a renowned teacher of political science. Good morning, Prof, and welcome to the Morning Show.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good to have you on the Morning Show. Well, before we begin to talk about foreign relations, diplomacy, and politics, let's start with COVID-19, which has presented the entire world with a leadership challenge. We have seen leaders who have been providing the necessary leadership, maybe in New Zealand, in Australia. We have also seen leaders that have not handled it well, maybe in Brazil, the United States, but Africa is our major concern, and Nigeria, our own territory. What's your assessment of the level of leadership that you have seen across Africa in handling this international health emergency, and particularly how Nigeria is also handling it? And what are your suggestions going forward?
Well, I don't think that Africa has done too badly. We have seen moves made by countries that have been badly affected by this COVID-19. Saraponsa in South Africa had been very active, hands-on in confronting it. In Nigeria, we haven't also done too badly, although I would have liked to see scientists and experts in that particular field being more active and being the face of the presidential task force. The whole idea of policymakers and administrators being the front face of the anti-COVID-19 campaign has led to problems in the United States and has led to problems in Brazil. Well, we haven't had too many problems simply because we have not been overwhelmed by what the challenges that COVID-19 had posed to us. And I hope and pray that we will not be overwhelmed by it. But what seems to, my own discernment is that we seem really to follow the steps taken by other countries, especially Western countries, their own strategy in coping with the COVID-19, and that's what we do also here. However, let us give the devil his due. Nobody knows that much about this COVID-19. Nobody really knows what is the best thing to do about it. And so we will all just be playing catch with this virus, presumably until we get vaccine that will actually do the work they are supposed to do. So I will say we're about 9 months to really catching up with the COVID-19 epidemic.
Well, Professor, I see that you're wearing a mask even in the confines of your study. How serious you are taking this virus. But let me ask you, countries that would ordinarily have come to the aid of Africa to fight this pandemic are also trying to survive the pandemic on their own. And some analysts are saying, increasingly we are seeing protectionist sentiments increasing. Do you think that this is true? Is protectionism on the rise? And is this a wake-up call for Africa?
You know, one of the things that has challenged scholars looking forward is how a new world order, a post-COVID-19 world is going to look like. And basically, we've come to the conclusion that it is going to be a protectionist one for several reasons. One, a lot of governments got a bashing from their public when this pandemic started, and no country seems to have been prepared for it. No PPE, no sufficient PPE equipment, no drugs, no hospital beds, and all this kind of thing. And they were challenging their government to explain why all these things were not put in place. Governments are run by politicians. They've learned their lesson, so they're going to be protectionist in their attitudes. And we can already see evidence of this. See the amount of money that each country is pouring into the vaccine exploration. Two, see how the United States is cornering the production of drugs. Britain had even come up with legislation to prevent the export of drugs. So we are going to have a protectionist phase before again people find out that beggar my neighbor policy is not going to work, because you protect your own country and this virus flies on the back of a flock of birds from an infected country coming to your own country. So to that extent, eventually, we are going to end up with a global approach, but it is going to be protectionist first.
Let's talk more on vaccines, like you said. I'd like to know your take on this, can I use the word arms race for vaccines? Everybody wants to get vaccine. And the position of Africa in all of this, it looks as though we've not even started the conversation yet. And it's something we should be looking at critically.
Well, how much money do we put into R&D, into research and development? How much money do we put into it? In the 50s and in the 60s, the University College Teaching Hospital in Ibadan was one of the best in the world. Now, it's probably not better than a dispensing teaching institution. And I say this with all due respect to the staff working in the several teaching hospitals we have in Nigeria. Let us start off with this. We still produce some of the best doctors in the world. What is my evidence? Look at the way the United States and Britain Sorry?
You can go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, look at the way the United States and Britain depend on our doctors. They still fling open their doors to doctors trained in Nigeria coming into their country. So we still produce the best. However, we are not treating them well here. We are not pouring money into research and development. We don't treat researchers in any field, whether medical, technological, nuclear, or whatever it is. We don't treat them very well. One of the things which I hope this COVID-19 pandemic will teach us is that when you are ill, you don't go to a permanent secretary. You look for a doctor. When you are ill, you don't look for an engineer. you look for a medical doctor. Therefore, don't equate the salaries and allowances and perks of a doctor to that of a principal assistant secretary or permanent secretary or administrator or a minister. Treat doctors, the medical section, as a special field. Pour money into research and development, and then we will be having a discussion, a conversation on production of vaccine, production of medical equipment. And as we have shown, COVID-19, all of a sudden, if you like, stimulated even secondary school students into production of masks, into production of ventilators. We all saw it, and I'm quite happy about that. They may not be of the best quality, but that is the way to start. That's the way Japan started, and look at where Japan is today. But we must put money into research and development.
Well, still on this point about research and development, Prof, I think it was in 1987 that you proposed the idea of a black bomb and Nigeria developing nuclear weapons. Now, when you look back now, the optimism you had at that time that Nigeria could also become a world power, are you still optimistic? Because it looks like we've moved from that moment to a moment now where Nigeria has become a spectator on the world stage, and what we talk about mostly is poverty, insecurity, underdevelopment. Where did we get it wrong?
Leadership, leadership, leadership. We got it wrong there. You know, I have said in one of my lectures that I am still to come across a head of state or a president who believes that Nigeria has a future. And that this is why all of them are parochial while they are in office, rather than having a vision of building up Nigeria to meet its potentialities. I am tired and fed up. Well, I'm an old man now, but I'm tired and fed up of hearing, oh, the potential of Nigeria, oh, the potential African leader, oh, the potential black power. Potential? We are 60 years after independence, you are still talking about potential. A baby born 60 years ago is probably ready to be a president of a country. And yet we still talk about Nigeria having the potentiality. So I'm disappointed. Look, 2 weeks ago, something happened in the world which surprisingly didn't resonate in Nigeria. UAE, only 50 years post-independence in age, sent a rocket to Mars. I congratulate the Arab world. I congratulate the UAE, but it sent me into a depression. Has Africa even sent a rocket to the moon? Not to talk about going to Mars, no. And yet you know how much it cost the UAE? $200 million. That's the cost. And yet, at the same time, by October last year, The Economist said $586 billion have been stolen from Nigeria. So in other words, we have stolen 3 times the cost of that rocket experiment. And this is the kind of thing I was talking about when I was talking about a black bomb. Maybe the terminology was a bit too flamboyant. I was talking about Nigeria developing a technological base that will make it not a global power, but a medium power in the world. Now, instead, we take delight in stealing all the money, in pocketing all the money we should use, and not in keeping them in Nigeria, in keeping them abroad. I wonder if any study is done about the development of the real estate sector in Dubai. How much of Nigerian money will be there? And this is why I said none of those in leadership ever have any faith that Nigeria has a future. That's why when you are there, you steal the money, you take it away, so that when the house collapses, you have a nest egg somewhere else. So it is the leadership that has gone wrong. If, because nobody really knows how power changes people, but if Murtala Mohammed has stayed on for 3 years, I just wonder what Nigeria would have looked like by the end of the 3 years. I interacted a lot with him, and what he said to me and what I saw in him, I think he had that leadership vision for this country. He might have done a lot of things wrong in the past, but he had a vision. He saw the future, and I could identify with his future for Nigeria. But really, it is our leadership that has let us down.
Prof, now that you put this into perspective, it is truly sad, a sad situation. But should all hope be lost? That common expression says, never waste a crisis. Do you think that perhaps this is a tipping point for Nigeria? And, I mean, really, the question really is, should we lose hope?
Should we what?
Is all hope lost? Is it the tipping point we need? Can the coronavirus pandemic be perhaps the tipping point for us?
Well, Adesuwa, I hope so. I have heard that view expressed. I hope that it is not just out of sheer frustration that we will be clutching at every straw that comes our way. Yes, the government has set up, under the vice president, a post-COVID-19, if you like, economic space for Nigeria. I hope that report is not going to be like all other reports, gather dust in some archive. I hope there will really be a commitment to implementing that report. At least that will be a step in the right direction. You know, often I think that the reason God created Nigerians with this peculiarity for greed and stubbornness, and yet put in Nigeria so many resources, is to say, no matter how much you steal, I will still leave enough in your country for you to achieve Nigeria of our dreams. And so hope must not be lost. Thank God we are not a banana republic. Thank God we are not a one-resource country. We have so many things, and we are just even scratching the surface. So I just hope we will one day get a government, a leadership in this country that is going to have a vision and that will believe that there is a future for Nigeria, and that it is be his own mission, his own mandate, to pull Nigeria by the scruff of his neck and yank it forward to fulfill its mission. That's what my own hope is.
So, great hope there, and we all pray for that because Nigeria's our dear country. I want to talk about hope, really. because we're all dealers in hope. And I want to talk about the ray of light we've had in Nigeria, Nigerian top professionals. Recently, we broke the news this morning about Dr. Akinyemi and the fact that he's free now to run for the presidency of the Africa Development Bank because they have reviewed the process for his the investigation process, the last investigation process that the Americans refused, but now they have reviewed it, the independent team, and they said he's free, he's cleared. And secondly, I also want to talk about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala leading up to her, the process of election as the DG of the World Trade Organization. These are exciting, times for Nigeria. What does this mean to you, and what should we do at a time like this and at a phase like this?
Well, the first thing is we must congratulate the present administration for putting these people forward, backing them openly. And from what I have heard, resources have been made available to run a credible campaign to make sure they secure those positions. I'm happy for Dr. Adesina. I was in touch with him a few days ago, again to wish him luck and to hope that all these things turn out well. I am very happy at the news this morning that he has been cleared. Putting forward Dr. Iweala, a very, very well-qualified Nigerian, is also a good step. What you can say about this administration now is that Nigeria is no longer reticent about putting its best steps forward, putting its best face forward. You will be proud of the talent that we have, both in the diaspora and at home. Just give them the opportunities. They will make us proud. I think that in the past, maybe there has been a little bit, or more than a little bit, of reticence about our size, about our position in Africa, and about an unwillingness to push ourselves forward. Well, I hope that the additional case, the Okonjo-Iweala case, I think there is another one that is up running now, I can't remember, a good evidence that we turned that corner and we are no longer reticent or reluctant to push ourselves forward. We do need good news from Nigeria, enough about credit fraud, about drug smuggling. All countries have bad eggs. We also have good eggs, very good eggs. And this is why, like you, I am happy about the development in the African Development Bank and the race for the World Trade Organization.
Prof, earlier on there was a phrase you used. You talked about reports gathering dust. Now in 2014, you were vice chairman, co-chair of the National Political Conference. And that conference came up with a report, different brilliant recommendations about devolution of powers, about justice, about so many other issues in Nigeria. And we had thought that that was going to be a turning point for Nigeria. But looking back now, are you disappointed that another administration just came in and just threw that report into the dustbin?
I am very, very disappointed. Not just about the new administration turning its back on the report, but about the Jonathan administration that had up to 9 months to implement parts of the report and he didn't implement a single paragraph in that report that is set up itself. We made the job easier for the Jonathan administration by dividing the report into 3 parts. The first part dealt with issues that the president on his own could issue executive orders to implement. He didn't need to go anywhere for that. Second part is where he needed the approval of the National Assembly to implement. Then the third one is the ones dealing with constitutional amendments, where you then need the National Assembly and the states. President Jonathan could have implemented part 1. He didn't. It was only after the election results had come in that he then started rushing his cabinet into approving the results and passing them on to the National Assembly, but with nobody. I mean, anybody who knows anything about government knew nothing was going to happen. Whereas, before the elections, things could have been done. He has his reasons for doing that. I wasn't part of his government, so I don't know. With a new government that then came in, I'm sure, advisors of the new administration will say, if the man who set up this conference didn't do anything about the report, why do you want to do anything about it? I'm sure there are people who said that to President Buhari, but it's been a waste of resources, a waste of time, and a lost opportunity. Because whatever you may say, we got over 600 recommendations approved unanimously. I mean, you will seldom get 2 Nigerians agreeing on the same thing. But to get 386 delegates agreeing to 600 recommendations unanimously, we must have done something right. And even if you don't like the 600, surely you may find 250 that you would like in it. So it's been a lost opportunity for us. And this is the history of Nigeria. We are always losing opportunities. We are always missing the right turning on the road. But this is Nigeria. Maybe somewhere down the line, some governor will come on and say, we need another conference. We've had enough constitutional conferences. And this will not be the 2014 National Conference will not be the last one. Hopefully, there will be another one. Or you will get a government that will come in and bring out all those reports, shake them up, and distill from them sufficient recommendations to move this country forward. Let me say this, however, that if you look at the work of the National Assembly on constitutional matters, without giving any credit to the National Conference, and it doesn't need to give credit to them, they have been recommending and approving some of constitutional amendments that they have taken from the Uwais Electoral Reform Committee, on which I served, and the National Conference. They have been, but not enough for us to say we are on our way to the promised land.
Well said. Well, Prof, I would like to go back to the multilateral lending agencies and global bodies. Beyond what we have seen in the AFDB and the race for the DGWTO, we have seen another high-profile African heading the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, come under criticisms for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Majority of that criticism is coming from the U.S., And many within the body say he's receiving this criticism because he's African. Also, we had late Kofi Annan as the head of the United Nations. He had his own fair share of criticisms as well at that time. And I'm wondering, Prof, do you think that perhaps other world leaders do not want Africans to head these global bodies? What's your take? And what are the lessons we can learn and the advice you can give Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as she's racing to get that job?
Well, it's a power game. And one of the things you must be keep in mind is status quo powers don't like changes. We call all these institutions international organizations. Fair enough. However, they are under the control of the United States and Great Britain. And whenever you have any leader who wants to make significant changes, who wants to show a degree of autonomy or a degree of independence, the United States. It's not just Trump. What Reagan and Bush did to the United Nations are abominable. It's only when they have the Secretary General who is fully under their control that the Americans are happy. Even take the International Court of Justice. I could give you a list of how many judgments or advisory opinions of that court America has disobeyed, even when there are Western judges on that court. And incidentally, since I've mentioned the International Court of Justice, there is another Nigerian, the son of the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, son of the former President of the World Court, and that's Dr. Elias. Well, the son is Dr. Elias, the father is Dr. Elias. The son is also running for a seat on the World Court, and again being sponsored by Nigeria. I hope he gets it. He went to Igbobi College, which happens to be the best secondary school in Nigeria, even if I say so myself.
Are you sure about that, sir?
Being an old boy of that school. So, Adesua, you are right that the United States will not be happy with any organization it does not control. This was actually his problem with Akinyemi Adesina. All the things, the whistleblower things they're talking about were sponsored. And it's been cleared now. What they didn't like about Dr. Adesina was that he was going to turn the African Development Bank into a global player on the financial scene. He was going to make Africa less dependent on the IMF or the World Bank. And they didn't like that at all. And this was why they decided to go after him. So you are right. We shouldn't expect that there will be changes of such magnitude as to make this organization really agents of development. If they tried it, they will be out after the first term. You didn't mention Boutros Ghali, the first African Secretary General of the United Nations. They made sure he didn't serve the second term. He was too independent for Washington.
Let's come back home real quickly. We've been seeing what has played out on national TV as regards probes, anti-corruption probes here and there, the NDDC, and also we are hearing about NEDC, Northeastern Development Commission. We're seeing all sorts on TV. How does it make you feel as a Nigerian?
Well, I'm sure the same way you feel is the same way I feel. I have given you a figure of $586 billion, which since independence are supposed to have taken wings and flown out of Nigeria. And this is the figure as of October last year. I don't know, Ruben, I don't know. I mean, but angels are not going to come and run this country. What upsets me is that there is hardly, because I'm sure there must be one angel somewhere in Nigeria, but the experience has shown us that there's hardly any Nigerian who gets into office, even if it becomes an office.
Prof, are you still with us?
I am with you.
Oh, okay. Please continue, sir. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
I watched an interview where they asked the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, how did he prevent corruption in Singapore? And he said, I started at the top. One of my ministers went on holidays paid for by a company. When he came back, we arrested him, we tried him, and we jailed him. And said from that time on, not even an office pin will be stolen in Singapore. Therefore, you've got to start the anti-corruption crusade from the top, which means that the head of the head of the administration itself must be squeaky clean. Number two, he must have a desire and a determination to root corruption, hook, line, and sinker. Number three, he must not use it as a political weapon, because that's what has been done in this country. And fourth, there must be no sacred cows. You know, if you do those four things, I suspect that we may get somewhere in fighting corruption in this country, and then the resources of the country can be used to develop the country. Finally, there must be a belief that there is a future for Nigeria, a future based on justice and equity. Without those two, justice and equity, then you will have no one believing that Nigeria will exist in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Prof. I mean, so many things to still discuss with you. Africa's strategic foreign policy process, restructuring, system of governance, but I hope that when we come to you again, you will still oblige us. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.